All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Jude Inbox. I am here today with the awesome Phonewifey.
Hi.
If you don't know who Phonewifey is, they work a lot on Ambient the Gathering over on their YouTube channel. They do a lot of they'll take magic cards, mostly lands, right? Mostly like land cards.
All lands so far, although I think the next one is actually going to be Lightning Bolt. So I think we might have our
Ooh,
first non-land soon.
that's super cool. I'm actually really excited for that. Yeah, they take a lot of sort of land magic cards and they make like 30 to 40 minute ambient tracks on them. Probably my favorite one has to be Tolarian Academy. That one was awesome. You can hear like all the cool like bells in the background and like people walking around. It's super sick. Um, but yeah, I guess the point of this interview is really just to kind of like, get into the process of how you make these songs, and like any advice or tips you have for people wanting to get into sort of like the ambient music scene.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, well, happy to lend any insight I can. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and thanks for getting back to me. That's super sick. Yeah. Um, I guess my first question is, how long have you been making music for? When did you start?
Well, I'm 35 now, and I started making music. Oh God, well, I started playing music when I was under 10.
Wow, really?
I learned
Really?
double bass first, if you want to go all the way back. But when I
That's awesome.
started properly writing my own music, I would say I was about sort of 15, 16. So actually, yeah, 20 years. 20 years of writing my own music. But it's been in all sorts of styles. Like trance was always a big one for me. Trance and kind of bits of dance music, sort of housey stuff in the old fidget house days.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Kind of yeah, like a lot of electronic music. I also compose like modern classical music for concert hall. I've done film music, do kind of commercials by trade, and have always had a real soft spot for ambient music since I kind of discovered it as a teenager. And I think recently I've been making a lot more and releasing it more consistently, and kind of considering it a major string of my bow and what I do.
That is super sick. Yeah, that's awesome. So you've been doing this for a while, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm an old head now by I suppose
Yeah.
by the scene standards.
Yeah, that's rad though. Yeah, that's super cool. When you started making ambient music, what was like your major inspirations at the time?
Well, I think so. I think the ambient music that I'm making now is quite different from the kind of first attempts at ambient music that ambient. I guess I first started with sort of, I guess you'd call it ambient electronica,
Mm,
more instrumental, sometimes kind of beat based, but sometimes just sort of sort of docile electronic instrumental music. My biggest influence in that respect would be Aphex Twin, as almost I think anyone in the field will also tell you the same thing. That I remember being told by an older friend of mine about their music on a holiday. I think we were in Wales, like family friends, sort of staying in the same cottage together, and they brought a load of like home ripped CDs of stuff that they were listening to, and in that trip they showed me Block Party, who were, I think it was pre first album. They'd gotten the demos and Aphex Twin, and they played me I think Bullosophilus Bouncing Ball, and I immediately went afterwards. I sort of was really really like taken by it, and I downloaded as much as I could on LimeWire, and I found a track called Stone in Focus, which is from Selected Ambient Works too. And I just couldn't quite believe that music could be that inert, that there could be such a sort of lack of things that that you would usually look to from music. Like, I mean, maybe like lyrics, progression, sort of riffs, sort of detail. It was just a long form smear of harmony and repetition, and I was almost scared of it. I remember thinking, no, it can't just be this. It must do something. It's trying to trick me, or it's trying to jump scare me at some point. I remember kind of scanning through the track the first few times I hear it, just being like,
yeah.
where's the bit where it's going to do its thing, and it never did, and it perplexed me, and then I started to absolutely love it. And I think I first started to sort of put stuff like that on a sleep playlist, like a lot of Aphex Twin's ambient music and the longer kind of weird electronic instrumentals from kind of mid-career Radiohead stuff, like Tree Fingers from Kid A and things like that, and put them on a playlist. Along with kind of film music, I was listening to stuff like Craig Armstrong at the time, like the sort of romantic strings cues, Clint Mansell and Thomas Newman and stuff like that. I would sleep to that. I would get to sleep whilst listening to that music, and I would be kind of almost scared when Aphex Twin would come on, and then eventually I just kind of grew to absolutely love it. And yeah, I think started making stuff inspired by that world pretty quickly.
That's super sick. Yeah, I I need to listen to more music apparently because I wish I knew some of the guys you were dropping here.
Oh well,
um,
yeah. I mean, we have keep a little notepad and go and check some stuff out afterwards.
yeah. Um, so nowadays with your Ambient the Gathering stuff, what is like the main software that you use to make this music?
Again, yeah, showing my age, I use Cubase, but
Hmm.
I use a very old version of Cubase. I actually still use Cubase 4. I've never updated.
Oh, gotcha.
Although, I mean, I've updated my laptop, my hardware.
Yeah.
But my DAW was is Cubase 4 because that was the same thing that they had in the music tech department at college when I was studying there.
Oh, yeah.
So I mirrored the setup so I could take work from school back home and work from home into the studio at school and just work on my own stuff as much as possible, sort of in and out of college. Um, I guess actually for the college in America means university, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's in British terms, college is like the last couple of years of I imagine what would be high school for you.
Oh, really?
Um,
I didn't know that.
so it's like 16, 17. You have what's called sixth form college, which is like you choose your subject and you have a lot more freedom. And you sometimes go to a different. You sometimes go to your own. Anyway, not
But
important, but I was studying music tech at college, which would be like the latter parts of high school, and this was when I kind of started properly writing my own music, and I decided to mirror the setup that they had there, and um, I've never changed it. I've just kind of souped up my hardware so it kind of can run everything faster. But for ambient gathering, I use the DAW basically as a tape deck. As well as a real tape deck. I have a Marantz portable cassette recorder, which is it's a mono like dual head cassette recorder that was originally intended for field recording. It's like an 80s model. And what I do is I record a lot of stuff into that, like real sounds, like vocal sounds, samples, bits and pieces from here and there, and I manipulate them in the tape player in an analog way, like playing with the playback speed, the pitch function, um, playing them at the standard or the low speed to get extra grain, and then manipulating them again on sort of multiple recursions, so they get sort of very gritty and analog. And then I will record those sounds into Cubase and then work with them in a DAW. I think crucially, so I mean, you could make ambient the gathering in any DAW, um, because all I'm really working with is audio, is sort of raw audio recorded either from cassette tape or recorded from some other means, and then sequencing stuff along with some synthesizer parts here and there. And then I'm doing a lot of mixing down to cassette to give it that sort of analog grain and crackle and warble, which I think makes it sound much more kind of rich and eerie and old. And it's just sort of fuzzes up the quality a bit, which I think is good for when you're making stuff that's supposed to um, give a sense of something being kind of ancient or kind of mystic or a found
yeah.
source or something.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I've always gotten that like almost like an old Magic vibe from your ambience. Like I feel like if that makes any sense, like it connects very heavily with like the old Magic cards from back in like the 90s. It's super
Yeah, I
sick.
mean, it doesn't suit the kind of new Spider-Man sets,
Yeah, yeah,
or, or the new sort of Avatar. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's also no surprise that with Magic the Gathering, I'm much more of a fan of the eternal formats. Like I play pre-modern quite a lot.
Mm.
Play Pauper quite a lot, which uses a lot of old cards, old kind of classic cards, a lot of counter spells, a lot of dark rituals, a lot of fire, like thunder, a lot of lightning bolts,
Yeah, yeah, that's very cool.
and pre-modern's a closed meta, which is kind of great. So no cards after uh, 2003 or something like that, or was it 97? No cards after seventh edition.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm the kind of Avengers Assemble version of Magic being a
Yeah.
load of IPs kind of smashing into each other. Like, yeah, it's fine for Commander and like EDH and stuff, but really, like, no, the good stuff is sort of 2001 and back.
Yeah. Actually, as an off-topic question, how long have you been playing Magic for? Like, when did you get into it?
That only since so I remember it from the playground when I was a kid in the 90s. I remember specifically a friend, like a really close friend of mine who I still make music with actually. They brought some in from home, and most people were collecting Pokemon cards, and then they showed me this deck of Magic the Gathering cards, and the I remember the specifically the old card Shapeshifter, just like the illustration of that just
Yeah,
burned
yeah.
into my retina. Um, and yeah, it just sort of lay dormantly for a while. I think I remember I used to kind of make them at home on my old like iMac in the paint function, and then like would print them out and then put them onto the back of cardboard, like cereal box cardboard
Oh, that's
cutouts, and
super
make sort
cool.
of make my own trading card game. Because I never really had any real ones at the time. It was just sort of bit too expensive to get into sort of collecting something. And then yeah, 2020, I think, I went to a local game store to sort of check it out. They had Magic the Gathering stuff. I was reading Dracula at the time, the Bram Stoker novel, and sort of was very into kind of, well, still am, kind of vampires and the occult. And I think Crimson Vow was the set, and so I
Yeah,
was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And then I just got like fully got. The game got its hooks into me.
yeah,
Um, and then I discovered sort of Commander from there, which was really fun, and a few people that I knew had already kind of played that. And then from there, discovered kind of 60 card formats like Pauper and then pre-modern, and those are sort of where I spend most of my time, really.
that's awesome. Yeah. I can't say I've been playing Magic for as long as you. I just got into it like about 2 years ago, I think.
Oh, cool. What formats do you play?
I mainly just play Commander. That's my go-to, but I've been trying to get into more of the Pioneer scene. I want to get into more 60
Oh,
card formats.
interesting. Your Pioneer's a bit dead in the UK.
Really?
I think it was, yeah. There were a load of bans. It was relatively healthy, and then because I think the Eternal formats are just sort of they seem to be they seem to have more kind of hardcore fan bases.
Mm.
That Pauper is quite big in the UK, or at least locally, like at least in London, and pre-modern seems to be quite big. But you couldn't find a game of Pioneer to save your life, and modern is a little bit on the ropes, I think. It had a big surge around Modern Horizons 3, as you'd expect, but there's only about, as far as I'm aware of, a couple of weekly tournaments going on here and there, and I don't know what kind of numbers they're getting, but
That's super interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah. I would say the sort of platonic ideal of Magic is the kind of 60 card constructed competitive. I don't draft
Yeah.
because I don't really like buying new cards or like buying packs. I don't really do that anymore. I just sort of I buy what I need for decks
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
want to
That's the
play, and
go-to.
then I play those decks. So yeah, draft is I experimented a little bit, but I'm never going to learn a new set and how it plays enough to be able to get anything out of draft.
Mm.
But I like Pauper. I've been playing less of recently for other reasons. I've been playing more poker than I have Pauper actually.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
Pauper as an eternal format with a really good restriction, I'll always be interested in the meta of that. And I think pre-modern to me is just a kind of perfect meta that once you've learnt it, then it becomes an internal meta of shifting everything around to combat what people are playing rather than having to deal with new cards being sort of thrown into the format.
Yeah. Yeah, Popper's definitely super interesting as it kind of creates like a almost like a challenge that almost changes like the whole game. It definitely changes how people approach making decks and playing Popper and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's decks in Pauper that just don't exist in any other format. I mean, Cycle Storm is one of my favorite decks in Pauper. Great fun deck. Poison Storm. As far as I'm aware, there's just nothing that plays like that plays like Poison Storm in any other format. Um, some pretty unique ones like Walls combo as well, and as well as just having kind of blue control deck, red burn deck,
Yeah.
sort of Jund mid rangey stuff. Like it's cool. It's a really robust format, and I should play more of it. And if the people from the London Pauper scene ever hear this interview, they will
Yeah. Yeah.
they'll be saying come back, I'm sure. But and I will. But there's a lot going on at the moment.
Yeah, so, what is just to go back to the music scene? What is one thing that you specifically wish you knew when you actually started off making music?
Oh God. It's from a production standpoint, I would say compression. And
Mm,
I know that sounds really dry and technical. Compression and group busing, um, which I just you know if you're messing around with sounds, I think because often when you start making music, you're trying to emulate the stuff that you like and put your own spin on it,
yeah,
and you can get very bogged down in like finding. For me, it was like wanting to make music that either sounded like Tiesto on the trance side of things, or like Justice or Justice on the kind of like electro house side of things, and you'd spend so long making or like finding these synths that had the same kind of like sound quality and the similar types of drums and similar types of sort of like bass sounds and all kinds of stuff like that. And then you put it all together and you just think it doesn't quite sound right. It doesn't sound as robust. It doesn't sound and it's those kind of boring auxiliary elements like compression, limiting, EQing, mixing essentially, like mixing as a mi- using mixing as a part of the composition process of like getting things to sound correct and carving out the space for certain things to exist so they don't set each other off or all peak in the same place. Or a lot of the problems that you can often have as a producer is just that everything is hovering around that kind of everything is sort of peaking that mid frequency band and making everything sound muddy, and scooping a lot of EQs and using compression or group busing and then compression on multiple tracks simultaneously. So the sounds kind of get out of the way of each other at the right time so you can feel the clarity and the punch of what you're working with. I mean, ironically, making ambient music, you probably have to do less of that overall because you're looking for
yeah,
that sort of overwhelming wash of sound that just takes up a big bandwidth of the EQ. But that I think it took me years and years and years to figure out how to get things to sound properly mixed and polished as a producer, rather than just getting the sounds themselves, the sounds themselves to sound like what you want them to.
yeah, yeah. It's super. Yeah, okay. Um, out of all of yours, recently, out of all of your, Ambience the Gathering songs, which one would have to be your favorite? And like, what did you specifically do in making that song and like the process of making it and whatnot?
It's probably Drifting Meadow,
Oh,
which
that is
was
a
I
good one.
didn't mean I kind of made it by accident really. I was trying to make Shiv and Gorge, and I thought if I had this kind of what I wanted was a sort of sense of kind of mountainous drums and strumming from some sort of, I don't know, maybe some kind of like military camp over on the horizon on a distant mountain kind of thing.
Yeah,
And so I kind of started playing guitar and like building up layers, and I just sort of realized like this isn't that. This is something else. This is much more like ethereal and calm. Um, and then I looked around the Ozers block for something that made sense, and I found Drifting Meadow and saw the artwork for that, and I was like, oh, that's this is that. Okay, and it was a bit of a bonus track. And I think the reason that's the reason I say that is because I've probably been listening to that the most out of all of the ones that I've made recently. I put it on a lot, and I travel to it a lot. And I think with that one, I found a really, really nice blend of background and foreground. I think
Mm.
I found this this bed of guitar sounds, which is just one of the biggest biggest piece of advice I'd make for like for ambient music creation. If you want to do like long form stuff as well, like stuff that's in the kind of 20-30 minute range rather than the sort of 5-10 minute range,
Yeah.
turn off the grid. Uh, like de-snap everything, work with no tempo, and just have time code, and place the sounds in space where they sound good, rather than making things fit to beats and bars, because I think you get so much more of a sort of fluid dynamic rather than something that feels kind of on grid and very measured. Um, so I think I was just kind of freely playing these sort of strummed and fingerpicked arpeggios on guitar, um, using different chords, different voicings of chords, things that would sort of slightly clash with one another, things that would really prop one another up. And I started just sort of phasing them in and out behind each other, creating this kind of bed of sound. So there's this constant sort of background activity of guitar playing, a very sort of very mellow fingerpick guitar playing. And then I recorded a few more direct notes, much more clearly, and I stacked up about 8 or 9 of them. And so there was sort of 9 recordings of the same note being plucked, and then I made that big foregrounded ya dum da da dum, like
Yeah.
that melody, I suppose, or uh, that theme, that melody, that riff, whatever it is, the thing that's big in the foreground. And I just sort of sat with that for ages and had it looping and thought, I just don't really need to do much more to this. Um, Occasionally vary the harmony very slightly, adding a kind of a counterpoint in the bass underneath it, which rises as the melody falls, um, and using some vocal sounds that I had from a session with a singer in there as well, to just sort of thicken out the texture and make it kind of ethereal. Um, yeah, and it sort of ended up just sounding like exactly what I wanted it to sound like, um, which is nice.
Yeah, that's super cool being able to like, or just like sometimes accidentally making a song and you're just like, wow, this is awesome, and then you kind of
Mm.
develop it more and more. That's very cool.
Yeah. When you make something that you can just listen to for 20 minutes, like by itself, and you just think, okay, well that seems to be doing what it needs to be doing, and I seem to
Yeah.
be compelled to listen to it, so that's fine. Think the other one that I listen to a lot is Wastes, the bonus track from the
Mm.
first crop of Ambient the Gathering, the basic land cycle. And I think the reason I listen to that so much is because it's probably the closest I've ever gotten to writing something like Stone in Focus by Aphex Twin. Um, that it seems to be my response in mood and in texture to the probably the first proper bit of ambient music that I ever really heard, or not probably not heard but noticed, like properly noticed.
Yeah. Um, I had another question that just came to my mind. I was actually wondering, because I guess I never really questioned it, which is pretty funny to think about, but how did you actually get the name Phonewifey?
Oh, it was just serendipity, just happenstance. I was a really late adopter to smartphones, and I'm I'm really thinking about getting like binning mine
Oh,
and
okay.
trying to go off grid, or trying to
Yeah.
use it. I spend quite a lot of time thinking about how to use my phone as little as possible, and to use laptops and stuff, kind of bigger pieces of equipment that have more I don't know, more robust functionality. I hate the scroll. I really hate the algorithm. I hate being kind of
Yeah.
told what to look at, and I hate the way that the internet is sort of marginalizing search functionality and sort of deciding for yourself what you want to look at or engage with. And so I think the phone is just the sort of I mean, yeah, call me a boomer, call me a square from the past, but I was a bit of a late adopter to the smartphone. And I was at a pub with a friend who was, I think I just said like, yeah, I'm probably gonna like just finally buy a smartphone next week. And they were like, oh yeah, you should get on Instagram. You'd be really funny. And I was like, I don't know. And they were like, no, 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 I'll go on. I'll make you a profile now. And I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. And I'll claim it when I get a phone if I need to. So they just made me a profile and they were like, what do you want it to be called? And at the time, I was DJing and releasing music under the pseudonym Wife, which I think I stole from a Super Smash Brothers Melee player.
Oh.
There was a duo team of they were called Husband and Wife, and I just thought Wife is such a good name
Mm,
for like a DJ or for like for
yeah.
an artist. Um, and then yeah, so they were like, obviously that's taken. I was like, yeah, clearly. And I'd kind of been thinking that there were other musicians called that as well, and thinking that I might need to sort of vary up a bit. They were like, yeah, do you anything else? I was like, well, just call it Phonewifey then, because it was it was wife on a phone, so
Yeah.
it seemed to kind of make sense. It was totally flippant and happenstance and throwaway, and then it just kind of stuck, or it became the thing that I started releasing music under, and I quite liked it. I think it looks quite good written down, and I was quite surprised that it was free on sort of all on everything. No one else was phone wifey, so it was like, okay, yeah, I'll have that. I'll
Yeah.
take that space, and I'll be lumbered with it, whether for good or for better or worse, in sickness and in health.
That's funny. Yeah, that's super sick. I guess for my last question I have for you today, probably the biggest question, if you had one message for everybody wanting to get into either the music industry or just like ambient music specifically, what would that be?
Hmm. Well, I don't. I mean, I don't. I almost don't think there is an ambient music industry. I mean, you could probably
That's
count
true.
on one
Yeah.
hand the number of sort of like people who are really earning bread in the world of ambient music. There's William Basinski. Um, I don't like Malibu. Malibu's doing really well and releasing amazing music. Paul Riedel from the death metal band Blood Incantation is making very very good kind of modular sort of like analog modular synth music. I think.
Is
Um,
Coil still kind of?
Oh yeah, Coil are kicking about. I mean, yeah, I guess like yeah, kind of ambient industrial. Yeah, and sort of sort of occasionally Chris Carter and Cozy Fanny Tutti come out of the woodwork with a record. I mean, there's lots. There's lots of absolutely sort of
Yeah.
incredible artists. Tim Hecker, if that kind of counts. And Brian Eno, the kind of the father of it all. Um, but I don't know if there's a. I mean, it's weird because I'm not like I don't I don't really personally know that many other sort of ambient music people because I suppose I spent most of my time either in the kind of clubby and kind of internety pop music world
Yeah.
or in the classical music world. Um, and I think actually my ambient music and my kind of modern classical music share more in common because might share more in common than my kind of pop musicy stuff. I think because I'm so taken like a huge part of my listening and appreciation goes on this composer Morton Feldman, who I don't know if you would have heard of. They're an American composer from they they started their early works were from the 1950s
I'll
and
definitely have to check them
they
out.
died in the 80s. But basically they spent an entire career composing music that was pretty slow and very very quiet. Um, almost none of their music sort of reaches a dynamic level beyond sort of piano, quiet. A
Mm.
few moments here and there where something will swell or surge, but generally speaking, they were writing monolithically long pieces, particularly in their late period. A 90-minute piece for piano and string
Wow.
quartet. They have a 6-hour string quartet. They have a piece for flute, percussion, and piano and celesta called For Philip Guston. They were very close friends with the painter, and they dedicated it to him. Which is about a 4.5 hour long piece, and it's all extremely quiet and very 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 subtle. and just these kind of pulsating ideas that ebb and flow in extremely extended space and time, which I'm going to see an ensemble play in January.
Oh, nice.
GBSR duo doing a very rare performance of it. So this kind of this sort of like long form attritional kind of quiet music is just such a big part of what I listen to and the kinds of music that I appreciate. That ambient, I can't help but have my ambient music sort of seriously influenced by that, as well as the electronic stuff, the stuff that's more obviously in the world of ambient
Yeah.
music, that I was kind of talking about earlier. Sorry, that didn't really answer the question at all. Advice. It's just make stuff. Just make, sincerely make what you want to make, and find a little avenue to put it out. Don't really expect anything, but do for the sake of doing, and for the reason that you love it. And I think just very slowly and gradually over time, eyes and ears will gravitate towards what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, no one's gonna you. I don't think you can. I don't think you could really like sort of set out a game plan to like dominate the ambient
Yeah.
music world with a kind of like 5 year plan to like be on top of that. It's not. It doesn't. It's not like that.
Yeah.
I think people are kind of doing it for the love.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been super awesome. Thank you for coming on and answering some questions here and there. I'm excited for what was it, Thunder Lightning Bolt that you're working on next?
Lightning bolt, yeah. Not started it yet, but I think basically I was in Italy in the summer, and I got some really good footage of a lightning storm at night, and that which could work really well as a visual. So I think lightning bolt might be coming, and maybe I'll have to do a sort of pauper staple cycle or something
Oh
along
yeah,
those
that'd be
lines.
sick. That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be really rad. Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you
Cool.
for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
cheers.